Thank you.
Just gonna grab a couple things on that.
No worries.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Megan Fry, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lauren Gallagher, who's my good friend, business partner, and coaching colleague. Lauren is a school psychologist in the Harborfields School District and co-founder of Sync It Up Sports, which is an organization that aims to empower young athletes and coaches by providing mental skills programs and tools. Lauren also recently co-authored a children's book about being a good teammate with John Gordon. The book will be released this summer. Lauren has a master's in special education and a PhD in school psychology from Columbia University. She worked as a teacher in New York City before moving to Long Island, where she currently lives with her husband and 2 children. And today, Lauren is going to speak about leading your best life, unlocking the mysteries of positive leadership. So please welcome Dr. Lauren Gallagher.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to be here because I think there is something so special. There's an energy that comes from women getting together. And I know I see a man here too, so you're just going to have to be here with all the female energy. Yeah, give it up for the guy here. I just came back actually from a girls' weekend. My friends from college get together once in a while. Well, actually once a year, and it's like my most favorite. It's like a big think tank. Like we cover our personal lives and we come up with business ideas and all these things. And it's just so funny, the difference, because then my husband will go away and I'll be like, how's Joe's wife? Oh, I don't really know. And how's Joe's business? Well, I don't know. We didn't cover that. I go, what do you do? So I think there is something very special and unique about women coming together and sharing their knowledge and their wisdom and their feelings, because that is a very unique thing, I think, that us women have going for us. So leading your best life. I'm happy to be here also because there really are no secrets to good leadership. Everything you have, every tool you'll need is right here within yourself. It's just a matter of connecting to it. I just came from Amanda Ferrante's inspiring presentation, and she talked about this same thing, connection to ourselves. When we connect to ourselves, we kind of connect to our true passion, our true purpose. And from that, you can't help but have good leadership skills come from whatever that is. Whether it's your family that you're leading, or you're leading an organization, it's all the same. Or really leading yourself. I always say you need to be connected to yourself, because until you become the leader of you, until you know your path, it's really hard to lead others. So we'll keep going back to that, but I think connection to self is one of the most important things you can do. And we work with a lot of kids. Amanda was talking about this very same thing. I work with kids in the school, and I work with kids in sports, and it's one of the things that is being lost a little bit right now. We're in a generation of this social media where all the input is coming from other people, where it really needs to come from within. So we really now have to carve out time and work, both with kids and ourselves, to do that. So before we do anything, I think we need to dispel a myth that's out there of how we succeed in life. A lot of our anxiety in the world is created by our own thinking. Thinking that we have to be on this perfect trajectory of, to success. That we start here, we graduate from high school with great grades, we go to the perfect college, we find the love of our lives, we find great partners, oh, we have 2 kids, oh, there we are doing it all, juggling the life at home, cooking the dinner, and running to work, looking great, and there we're successful. Right? When really, the scatterplot looks something more like this. And when you're going through it, when you connect the dots, it looks a little bit more like this. This, I don't know about you guys, but this is kind of how I felt at times. And it's not that it was all bad. It really wasn't. But it's a hot mess sometimes, right? Doing all these things. And I think this is one of the challenges we have as women. It's one of the things that's challenging, and it's one of the things that makes us so strong and why we bring so many great things outside the home and to the workplace. is because we're used to doing it. If we get through it, we're used to doing it. We're used to being able to attend to others and be sensitive and, attend to other people's needs while also getting a lot of other things done. And that makes for a very, very strong and confident and competent employee or manager or leader. So I'll give you a little bit, we'll go a little bit through, let's see, we'll quickly go through my life. I'll show you my ups and downs, and then we'll see how this kind of translates. All right, so I feel like I picked the right college. I got to play soccer in college. It was a great experience. Then I graduated and had no idea what I wanted to do, right? Mom's like, Laura, you going to get a job? I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure. So, okay, hit a low point. Get a job and an apartment in New York City. Wasn't anything that I had studied for. Yeah, don't love the job in New York City. So I began teaching special ed in New York City. I went down. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't a teacher, but there was a need for teachers in special ed. So I went to this high school in Brooklyn. I was teaching high school. I was like 23 years old. There were gang members. It was probably one of the most enlightening experiences of my life. But after 2 years, I was burned out. I was excessed from the job. And I was working 2 jobs to pay my rent. But you know what? That being said, I was still living in New York City and having fun. But it was a low point. So I decided to go back to grad school. I went back for my master's in early childhood special education. So my experience in the high school made me realize it's too late. I want to work with the earlier ones, right? I want to intervene. I want to be able to do things when they're younger. And I realized I really don't want to be a teacher. The same thing every day, every year. I couldn't do it. Okay, well, good thing I was paying for grad school. So I applied for my PhD program in school psychology because I started to narrow down. I really like working with the kids, in small groups by themselves, helping them work both on the emotional piece but within an educational setting. All right, so we're starting to get closer here. Oh, this was a hot mess. Dissertation proposal with a 6-week-old infant that I was nursing at the time. You might want to close your ears for this one, but it was hot mess, like exemplified. It was okay, we don't even need to get into the details of that, but there were getting through this. There were a lot of low points in this one, but I did it. Then the high point, okay, I get my job, I'm coaching, I'm raising 2 kids. The low point, I'm renovating a home, working, coaching, raising 2 kids. Then I meet Megan, we start talking about all these things, we start a business. Then we realize it's really hard starting a business, especially when you have no business experience, right? So then I get an opportunity because of our business and because of the things we're doing to write a children's book, which I've never done. So started doing that. And the journey goes on. But my point is that it's not the good times that help really define us or help us grow. It's really how we handle and how we think about these things, right? So any one of these things could have held me back. I could have given up. I could have said, this is just too hard. I can't do this, I can't. The 5 o'clock mornings, writing my dissertation, that 1 hour I could get before the kids woke up. Or, being burnt, like getting excess from my job. I could have decided, okay, I got to move back home. Or, so it's how we view these things that really makes the difference. I'm debating about whether to give you a phrase that I just heard. It was actually not written. It didn't come up. It didn't come from me. It was an article someone wrote. These things are really hard. But the title of this article was Embrace the Suck, right? The times that are really hard, if we can somehow shift our thinking to be actually, grateful. I found like those 5 o'clock mornings were my most special times. I would get my coffee. I would sit in front of my computer. I would have time to myself to just think, right? To just be me. Because in those times when you're doing all those other things for other people, that's when we kind of lose our sense of self sometimes. And I think that is the challenge for women. When we are trying to have a career and stay home and do both, it's very easy unless we're really connected and we take time for that, to lose our sense of self. So getting started. Sometimes it's hard if we're coming out of being home for a while and we need to get back out there, or we're lacking in confidence. We're just going to do I'm going to give you a little sports psychology technique we're going to use right now. And Amanda kind of hit upon this a little bit too. I actually heard this from Dan Abrahams, who is a pretty famous sports psychologist. He works with a lot of professional players, and he has this thing called, this is the phrase I love too. It doesn't matter how badly you want to get there or how fast you want to get there, you always have to start where you are. And that's sometimes really hard. When I came off of college and then I had kids, I still considered myself like the college athlete, but I was tired, exhausted, and I started working out, and I started having these like physical meltdowns, like really bad. And it prevented me then from being able to even start again. I was like, I can't do a push-up, because in my mind, I think I should still be able to do 50 push-ups, and I couldn't do one. I had to kind of accept where I was. Acceptance of the situation as it is sometimes very hard. There's nothing passive about acceptance. So accepting where we are and then having the patience to start where we are. Start with one push-up. Start with one little thing you can get done and you're on your way. Don't think it's too little, and then you check it off and you move to the next thing. So, which is not always easy for those of us who our minds are racing and we just see the trophy at the end and we just need to get there as quickly. There's no way around it. You got to start where you are. So, we're going to all get our game faces on here. This is what he calls this, Dan Abrahams. Get your game face on. So I want you to all imagine. We're going to use our minds right now. And the power of creativity and imagination is all here. So I want you to imagine yourself at your best. Whatever it is you're doing. Whether it's sports or whether it's in your workplace, whether it's being a mother and a parent. Imagine yourself at your best. And what does that look like? So the first thing is imagining yourself at your best. Now I want you to pick 2 or 3 words to describe what that looks like. Okay, so when he was working with the professional soccer team on the women's national team, she's like, I'm dominant, I'm lively, and so she picked 2 words that really describe what that best that you see in your head looks like. So I want you to do that right now. Just take a few minutes, write something down, or think of a couple words. And then I want you to think of a person that embodies those qualities. It could be someone you know. This is a personal thing, right? So it's something you are going to use at times when you need to kind of conjure up some confidence, or when you need to kind of get yourself out there to get started. It could be someone you know that really does things well. It could be a famous person that does it. It could be an animal. It doesn't matter. Whatever embodies those qualities that you see as being important when you're at your best. So for me, do you want to know my game face? Okay. You have no choice. You're going to get to know it anyway. My game face is, my first one is energetic. Okay, I work very hard. Energy is so important. There's something called emotional contagion, right? So it's like the energy you have, you bring to others. It's contagious. It can't be helped. So I work very hard at keeping my energy levels up because I think it's super important. I have this weird phenomenon, I always tell Megan about it. Since I've been coaching, how I feel physically is how my team plays. It's very strange. Like I've taken note of it over the years. And there's no explanation. I can fake good energy, right? But even when I fake the good energy, if I am really drained and have a headache behind it and I'm not feeling good, it's strange. It's just, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But it seems to be the case that when I'm not feeling well, my team doesn't play well. Creative. I like being creative because creativity and presenting things in a creative way is more fun. I like to have fun, too. I work with kids, so you really start to understand the importance of fun in learning. The fact that we keep taking play away from kids, which is how they learn and how they incorporate learning with fun, it's very reinforcing. So I want to always be creative. When I'm working with kids, I'm always trying to come up with creative ways of getting them to learn things and remember things. So it's fun. They don't want to sit there and do flashcards with me. So creativity is very important. And daring. You have to recognize that sometimes you have to step outside of your comfort zone. So I like that word daring, though. It's like I'm daring to do things that are out of my comfort zone, that are going to help me stretch and grow. So these are my 3 words. These are the words I go to. This is part of my game face. Can anyone guess who my person is? No one. So I'm going to try. All right. It's probably not anyone you're thinking of. Here we go. Think like Pink. Does anyone here like Pink? Okay. I love her because I think she embodies all those 3 words that I just said. If anybody, and I put this social media post up because this whole social media thing, the good, the bad, the ugly, it is a good tool in a lot of ways for creating a platform. If you're trying to create a personal brand for yourself or your organization, it really makes you think about who you are, and if there are some F-bombs in here, just ignore them, because they're all Pinks, but I didn't put them on there. The social media thing really makes you think about who you are and what you want to communicate to the world, right? So it is a good tool, and it can be a very good platform for doing that, for communicating who you are. And Pink, I think, I follow her on Instagram, and she embodies all that I want. She has pictures of her kids. Her music really is such a good example of kind of what's important to her also. And she brings everybody in. She travels and she brings her kids with her, and her kids are important, but she also is vulnerable. She lets you know, well, I was in therapy, and finding your voice and all the things that, I don't know, I just think she's a very real person who I think is truly works hard to stay connected to who she is, to stay true to that. And when you do that, you can't help but shine, right? Everything she does, her performances, everything. So enough about Pink, but that she's my person. When I need to think of the words and the qualities that I want, I kind of go to her. I'm a terrible singer, unfortunately, but I do belt it out in the car and in the shower. So, okay, so what are the keys to good leadership? And how do we develop them and maintain them? So this is actually a workbook. I meant to bring it, but this is the workbook that Megan and I have developed for young athletes. This one is actually for young female soccer players. That's who we were working with, so that's what we decided to go with. And in this workbook we have 12 chapters. There's a lot. But what I realized when I started looking at it is the 12 chapters really encompass everything that we want a good leader to have. So anyone working to be at the top of their game, whatever that is, it's all the same. It's like Amanda said in her thing, I work a lot with kids, but when you're really working to be your best, it's the same things with adults. My thing is, why are we not starting to teach kids these things at a younger age? And I feel like that's what my strength has become, is I know all this theory and knowledge, and I hear what the college coaches and what business people at the top of their game are saying they want from their employees. And I'm saying, and I work with young kids, so I've learned to break it down so we can start teaching those foundational skills at younger ages, because that's what needs to happen. It's the same reason I decided I can't teach high school anymore. I need to go back here. That's where it's important. But it's important for all of us to also start modeling and doing those things ourselves. So I picked a couple that we'll go over today. Like I said, there are 12 chapters, but I think one of the most important things is mindset, and we'll go over what mindset is. The power of being positive. We talked about a little bit of that positive energy. Developing the complete person, right? We are not just a soccer player, or we are not just a psychologist. We are a whole person that has a lot of different needs. Team building, mindfulness, and emotional awareness. So I think these are, I actually didn't cover emotional awareness, but it's covered in all of these other things. So I think we'll start with mindset. I just put one of the workbook sheets we had in there, which teaches mindset. When I teach mindset to kids, are all of you familiar a little bit with mindset? I think it is one of the most empowering tools you can have, just the idea and the concept of it, because once you understand it, you will know you always have a choice about how to think about things. Always. Things are not happening to you. Things that are happening are not good or bad. It's how we think about what is happening to us that makes all the difference. So when I work with kids or young athletes, I call it a victim and a warrior mindset. So a victim mindset avoids challenges, because if they make a mistake, they will feel like they are not good enough. A warrior mindset embraces challenges. A victim blames others and often quits when they're not successful. A warrior views failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. One of the most profound statements, I use it with kids all the time. We have to change our views about failure, right? Because it's like all those bottom points on the Scatterplot. It's there where we actually learn the most, and it usually gets us on the path if we allow it to. If we don't let it really stop us and pull us back, then it can help us. Victim mindset is often negative and pessimistic. They often expect bad things to happen. A warrior is positive and optimistic. Those people generally expect good things to happen. Victim mindset gives up easily. Warrior perseveres and embraces challenges. Victim sees effort as a waste of time. The warrior sees effort as the path to mastery. And a victim mindset feels threatened by others' success, and the warrior loves learning new things. So I think once you understand these two things, if you haven't heard about mindset, start cluing in to your thoughts and what you're thinking about things, or the thoughts of your kids or your employees. Start seeing how they view things and see if you can start, because every one of us has the opportunity to change the story. This was a great phrase I learned from actually another sports psychologist, Bill Beswick, who is, I just love him. He's in England. He works with professional, grown-up coaches that will call him and say, you know, I got the media coming. We're in this playoff game. 2 of my best players are on the bench. We're going to be terrible. And you know what he says to them? This is great. He gets to bill them for this. Change the story. Call me back in an hour. Right? He's not going to fix it. Bill's not going to be able to tell him. He's putting it back on the person. Think about this again. See what you can come up with. Dig deep. What are you going to get out of this? The situation is what it is. Can he change it? No, the coach can't change the situation. What the coach can do is start to change his thinking about it. He has a choice to go in defeated or try to find the positives, inspire his team, and do the best they can. That's it. So what's the choice? And if sure enough, Bill tells a story, calls back in an hour. Okay, I found this. This is what I'm going to do. I've got a deep bench. We're going to play this player here. They end up winning the game 1-0. I don't know if that would have happened had the coach not put himself through the process of changing his thinking about it. Change the story. Remember it. When your kids come to you or when someone comes to you and says, but I can't do that, change the story in your head. Change it. You can always do that. And when you have this idea of what mindset, the two different mindsets are, you have that ability to change the story. So what I did was I just took a couple of our posts from Sync It Up. I figured I'd use the whole social media because this has been challenging for me. I am not a social media person. I don't like posting. I really don't post much personally. But when you're trying to communicate a concept of what you're trying to do, it really makes you think about things. So in terms of positivity, this is one that I love. Attitude is everything, and it is one of the things that are always within your control. When I work with kids in counseling or anybody else for that matter, all we can do is focus what's within our control. If we focus on results, are results always within our control? No. But when we focus on the things that are within our control, we have less anxiety, we have less worry. It gives us more of a sense of empowerment, and we can power our way through. So, and not only that, attitude is absolutely contagious. So it's just like that energy, right? That energy is contagious, and so is your attitude. If you go in with a good attitude, guess what? The people around you are most likely, you're going to lift them up. If you go in with a poor attitude, everybody just deflates, right? So always, attitude is a choice. Becoming aware of the language you use to talk to yourself. That self-talk is very important. When we use words, those, I call them actually for kids, the abominable absolutes, right? This has to happen. It needs to be this way. Does anything need to be this way? I always tell kids, nothing has to happen. The only thing you need to do is the only thing that's certain is you breathe and then we die. I try not to go there with them. But really, that's the only thing, right? You don't really have control over anything else. So become aware of the language you're using with yourself. Are you creating your own anxiety by saying this has to happen? If I don't get 100 on this test, I am going to die. So many of these kids these days are wrought with anxiety because if they don't have that 4 point, I can't even tell you even in the past couple weeks, the amount of incredibly serious things going on with kids these days because of their ideas, and they're coming from up top. I hate to say it, I work in the school system, and all we put on the school newsletter is the top 10 kids with the top GPAs. And I'm like, there's something wrong with this. We're asking kids to do all these things and growth mindset and everything else, but what's our measure of success? The kids who are achieving the most grade-wise. How about the kids that are just finding their path, right? What about the kid that doesn't even graduate with a Regents diploma, but he goes to tech and he's finding his purpose and he's finding a job and he's happy? That to me gives me goosebumps. That is any person, any unique spirit finding their own way, that's success. But our measures of success in society have become so based on end results and test scores and achievements that it is really affecting our youth. So be careful with your own self-talk. Be careful with the self-talk you use with your employees or your kids or the people you work with, because it creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a win-lose. If I have to get this done, or if we need to get this perfect, what happens when it's not? Devastation, right? My son is the worst with this. Oh my gosh. I try so hard, but he's like, oh, I'm terrible. I'm like, really? It's really not that bad. So become aware of your language. And when you find you are being too harsh with yourself, change the story. Practice replacing that language with something else. And it takes practice. Those of us who have or are more prone to negative thinking, it's practice. So that's what I do with the kids. I work with them. I give them phrases. Can you change? Does anyone here work with kids? Okay. One of my favorite books, even as an adult, is The Day the Crayons Quit. Does anyone know that book? It's one of the best books ever because you will laugh as an adult. The whole idea about the crayons is that they're all complaining. They write letters to the owner. Why do you use me so much? I'm so tired. Most of them have a fixed mindset, except Green Crayon. He is the only one that is happy with his job. But what I do, even with kids, is I have them go through the crayons and have them practice changing the story. I work too hard. I'm exhausted. I have to color Santa. I have to color, all the strawberries and apples. How can you change that story? How about, I am so tired at the end of the day, but it is the best kind of tired because I know you trust me. I know you love me. You use me all the time. And I get to color Santa, and who is cooler than Santa? You work with them on practicing, but you can do this in your everyday life. Become aware of your self-talk. And remember, no matter how bad the situation, there is always something positive to be gained. There is always something to be learned from any situation. I actually had a student one time in counseling, he was a 5th grade student, say to me, but what about, he brings me in, Dr. Gallagher, but what about the Holocaust? And I was like, wow, that's a deep one. So I said to him, you know what? That's a really good question, because that is probably one of the most horrible, atrocious times in history. But I said, I will bet that there are people that made it through that found a way to change their thinking in their reality that they couldn't change, that they found the positive, and that helped them get through the day. And interestingly enough, that summer I read Viktor Frankl. Have you read Man's Search for Meaning, right? I couldn't believe I was reading this book, and I actually emailed his mom because he had graduated already and gone to 6th grade. But one of the whole premise of his book is that attitude is the one thing that can never be taken away from a human being. And how profound is that? Living through and he saw the people in concentration camps that were able to change their attitude were the ones that survived. And that is like the power of our minds. It's atrocious. No one should have had to suffer through that. But when you can harness the power of your mind and shift your thinking to adjust to a situation, it's not that a situation you can't change, right? That's the issue. So I think that's one of the most powerful tools that we can have ourselves and teach our kids. Team building. If you're involved in an organization, there are no shortcuts. You have to put the time in. If you're creating a culture of a team, you have to do team building things. I love creating a culture of we before me. We're a team first, right? Everything we do is for the team. I think Mia Hamm has a quote like that. Sacrifice for the team, I rely on the team, I defer to the team. You know, the team is first. Everything I do for myself is also for the team. Show you care about the people you work with and lead. Caring is one of the most powerful tools as well. When you show you care for someone, even as the superintendent or the head honcho, the people that care, you create caring back. You get what you give. So when you do that, you will have people that care and want to be part of your organization. Create good chemistry within your organization by making time for people to get to know each other on a personal level. This is an incredibly powerful tool as well. We do this with our soccer teams. You know, you get them together. They're so used to just playing soccer together. You kind of stop them and give them a little activity where they have to like interview each other and present for each other or do a fun activity like that. They start to get to know each other on a personal level, and all of a sudden it becomes almost like, wow, I really like that person. I really want to work hard for that person. You do that enough times, that's what good team chemistry is. In any sport and organization, it's about creating good thoughts between people, right? And you have to put work into doing that. It just doesn't happen. Developing the complete person. I think this is a really important one. You know, we have to give time, mind, body, and spirit, I call it, when I work with the kids. You know, our minds, we need time to reflect, meditate. I do mindful breathing. I do a little bit of mindfulness in every counseling session I do. Whether it's just my Tibetan singing bowl, I do mindful listening for the ones who can't sit. The other ones will do 1 or 2 minute meditations. I even started working with soccer teams, doing 2 minutes of mindful breathing before practice. It helps center them, or after practice. It helps them physiologically settle down. It helps get them centered. And you know what? Even this was a young group. We were working, a young team that we did a camp with. They start to welcome it, because when do we ever ask them to slow down? When do we ever slow down? So when you can carve out the time, and again, it all goes back to that connection to self, right? Time to reflect, time to meditate, whether you take a few minutes. And if you are not, I only started meditating probably 3 years ago. Anyone who wants to get started and is a little wary, because it's a little like, you know, the Calm app and Headspace are both great apps that you can use that start with very short guided meditations, and it's a great way. It's 10 minutes in the morning, and it's a great way to start your day. That's how I started. 10 minutes I took to myself. I put my husband in charge of the mornings, and I would go down and I would listen to my meditation, breathe, and it's something that stays with you for the rest of the day. And that's what we need to teach kids too. You know, you always have your breath. So even if you're in a meeting and you find yourself, like Amanda was saying, if you get triggered, you always have your breath. No one even has to see you doing it, right? You just breathe, and it frees up the space in your brain. It actually unlocks, you know, the pathways to the prefrontal cortex, which is where we do all our best thinking and decision making. You can do that without anybody knowing. It's a great tool. Your body, your physical body, exercise, eat healthy. I can't even tell you the importance of sleep. If you want to do anything for yourself, more sleep. It's so important for healing, for just energizing yourself. And then spirit, friends, fun, and love, always important. So you need to keep all those things in mind. And one of the other things I just wanted to let you know, Brad Stuhlberg wrote a great book called Peak Performance. And it's just about all the things that you can do to kind of really beat your best. And I love, this is his term, stress plus rest equals growth. So this is a good pointer for you too. If you're working on something, you need to take breaks. It's been shown, research has shown, 1 hour, 60 to 90 minutes of full immersion in something, and then you need a break. It's during those breaks often where you really take time off that you get insight, you get solutions to problems. Have you ever noticed that? You start to, you know, you're in something you can't solve, you're thinking about something, okay, I'm going to go for a run now. I go for a run, and all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, generating all these great ideas and thoughts. It's a different level of thinking that actually is really important, and that's where good insight comes from. So the other thing is mindfulness. I touched upon it a little bit. This is one of the tools you can use. This will help in so many ways, both the connection to self, emotional regulation, so many things. I said getting in the zone requires being present and focusing on that which is in your control. We talked about meditation. And if anyone wants to know more about that, you can just contact me, because I was a regular person who had a racing mind who said, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. But you can do it if you practice. Quiet reflection, journal writing, walks and runs, hikes in nature. Getting out in nature really also helps you keep you kind of grounded and in that zone. And so some final inspiration. This is one I love. Unthinkable feats always begin with a single spark of imagination. So we have to keep our brains and our minds energized so that imagination and that spark can be there. Know that everything you need is right within yourself. You don't need anything else. You just need to develop and help it grow. Connect with yourself. Imagine what you want and who you can be. Start where you are and take small, manageable steps to go in the direction you want. Care for your mind, body, and spirit so everything's working at the same time. And then watch yourself begin to lead your best life. You'll be amazed at what happens when you start to kind of do things intentionally and work at all these things. I think, again, what you put into yourself, you put out, and then it comes back to you. And I'm a true believer in that. So I think we end at 10:40. We'll leave time for any questions. Does anybody have any questions? No questions? Sure. This one? Yeah, no problem. I've started doing, like I said, the social media thing has been challenging, but it's really made me kind of conceptualize my ideas. So I almost write like little mini blogs sometimes because it helps. It's like when I do an evaluation at work. You know, I test and I have all these things and I think I know, and then I have to sit down and write the report. And when I write the report, then I start to really see the big picture. So writing things down is always a good. Calm and Headspace. I use Calm. I personally love Calm. And if there are any educators here, you can get Calm. I think it's $39.99 a year, but if you're an educator, you can get it for free. So anyone who wants it. And I love it because it starts with very manageable guided meditations that are kind of fun. And there's a daily meditation every day, and it covers like a concept within mindfulness. So it's kind of good. It's a good way to start. Man's Search for Meaning. That one, it's a very small book, Viktor Frankl, and it really is one. It's a tough read. It's tough, but it is it really, I think, speaks to the power of our minds. He was actually a psychiatrist. So he had this ability to also kind of, believe it or not, while he was there, kind of observe. He has this mind that was kind of interested still with the levels of deprivation he was going through to really observe people and kind of see. And this book is really based on his observations. And his idea also that the people that were able to survive were ones that had meaning in their life outside that they could hold on to, right? There's like something outside of here that I will hold on to. But it really is a profound book about the power of our minds and what we have the capability to do, even in the most dire situations. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you go through those 3 steps, the imagine yourself at your best, and describing?
Sure. So what you do is just imagine. You have to imagine what you would look like at your best. And sometimes it might be a time that you were at your best. You know, you might be able to conjure up that time. Or if it's something you're working toward, what do you imagine yourself, you know, doing? Or like, for instance, even when I was doing this presentation, I was kind of thinking like, okay, what do I want to look like? What does it look like for me to be up there in front of all these people, you know, doing a presentation? And that's when I came up with, like, you know what? I want to have energy. I kind of visualized myself doing it. So a great way to start is visualize yourself in whatever, and you can use this for any situation. This he uses, it's called game face because it's like you're going into a match, a game that day, right? So whatever it is you're going into, imagine yourself doing that, right? Imagine what it looks like if you're really doing it well. And then what are the 2 or 3 words that describe that? And that can almost become, he teaches it like a mantra. Like when you start getting nervous and you start kind of doubting yourself, go back to it. Energy, it gives you something controllable also to kind of focus on. So if you start stumbling, you can kind of bring yourself back. Do you want me to go back to the slide, or you can, it's just called game face, which I love because it's almost like get your game face on, right? What does it look like? What are the characteristics I need? And then picture someone else who's doing it. If I started acting like Pink right now and belting out, we'd all be in trouble. But I can picture her energy and her, you know, what she does. So I know I keep going back to Pink, sorry. What is it called? Insight Timer? Oh, that's good. I'll have to try that one.
So my husband, going back to attitude, it's in your control. Whenever I say to him, like, oh, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. He'll go, not with that attitude. And every time he says it, I like cringe because I'm like, okay, not right now. But I find myself now doing it when I get frustrated with something, going, not with that attitude. And it makes it a little easier.
Self-awareness. Awareness is the key. It's the first step, right? When you start becoming aware. How about using the power of yet, too? This is what I use with the kids. I can't do it yet, right? If you add yet to anything you say you can't do, you all of a sudden bring yourself down a little bit. Okay, I can't do it yet. Breathing is really important, too. When you find yourselves getting triggered, go to the breath. It sounds crazy. I know. It's something I've had to get used to, too. But physiologically, it calms ourselves, and it also frees up our thinking power again. So I would suggest that also. But that's great, because if self-awareness is the key, right? It's like what you try to do with kids, right? We keep telling them, until we really want them to be all of a sudden like, oh, yeah, can't do that, right? So that's how we learn. Anybody else?
I tell the kids, I'm a teacher, I tell the kids you're the captain of your own ship. You know, he made me do it, he said this, I did it because he said to do it.
You're always in control of yourself, right? Captain of your own ship. Yep, you always have a choice about how you're going to, yep.
I remember there was a little boy, he was, I teach 5th grade, so in 4th grade he got in trouble all the time, and they had to write at the beginning of the year the goal, and he said, I want to be a good boy, and I said, you're a good boy, you just don't make good choices yet, you don't make the right choices
right.
yet, so I'm going to teach you how to think about your choices.
Right.
So.
And also, what does being a good boy look like? Actually give him some things to visualize. What does it mean in this situation? Like even the situations he's having, I would present him with what does that look like then? So now you've planted the seed of like when he's in that situation, what is the good choice? Right? Because that's really the problem. The problem is some of the kids don't have any idea what it looks like. You know, they can't visualize that. So the power of visualization is huge because it plants the seed in your brain. One of the best quotes that I love the most is Thomas Edison. It says, never go to sleep without making a request to your subconscious, right? Because when you plant the seed, your brain starts working on it. When you go to bed at night with a question or a problem or you're thinking about something, our minds don't go to sleep at night. They actually continue working on a level that can be quite helpful. So I say put your brain to work, right? Like if you have that, start putting your brain, even write it down. It's suggested you even write it down. Write a couple things down that you want answers to or you're trying to figure out. Because often that's when he also slept with a notepad next to his bed. Because again, that rest part, after you've been working so hard or whatever, sleep is the best rest you can get. He would wake up with ideas and, you know, that's how inventions, that's how things that are not existing today happen, right? Because somebody had an idea. So put your brain to work. Anybody?
I have another comment or an observation. I was when you were talking about the need for exercise, and a lot of ideas come when you are. That's why they should be getting rid of recess.
Oh, don't even get me started. Yeah, I agree 100% because play is what kids are supposed to be doing. Like on so many levels, it brings everything together. It's how they learn social skills. It's how they learn, you know, problem-solving skills, physical activity, the endorphins, it regulates their little bodies. You know, like we think going and putting them in the classroom with flashcards, that's not how kids are meant to learn. It's not that we can't do some of that, but it needs the balance, and we're taking away a lot of what our bodies are designed to do and the ways we naturally learn. So.
I was doing research for my dissertation, and I would be working for hours looking up all this data, and I went to spin class, and the teacher would give you 5 minutes free ride where he shuts the lights, and you just listen to music and do whatever you want.
Right.
And I would all of a sudden get a brainstorm, like, oh, that's what
Yep.
I'm supposed to be. Oh,
That's a perfect example. Perfect example. But we all think you need to be working, like you need to get it then. When you know how the brain works, then you go, you take the rest or you do something, and often there's your solution. So are we? Oh, a little over. Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being with all of you.